This is Professor UD Guru coming to you from about that far north of the equator. Guess what? I have no internet for like 2 days. I can't look at YouTube, so I'm going to make me some movies of my own today. If I can figure out what to talk about, let's talk about something interesting like how I cured constipation. Then I'm talking chronic constipation. If you don't know what constipation is, you just go look it up, because I'm not going to describe the situation in any great detail. Well, I'm more interested in the cause and the solution. In my case, the cause was many trips to the hospital and too much antibiotics. That's what caused the chronic constipation in my case. And I'm not saying that your cause is the same, and I'm not saying that your solution is the same. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not suggesting or prescribing anything. So you just take the part that you can use and leave the rest. But I cured constipation in 1 day after years. I'm talking like 5-6 years of not being able to poop properly or very often. Let's just say after 2 or 3 days, I'd take me and make a dose of vitamin C on an empty stomach before breakfast and hope it worked. And if you have to do that, and don't be leaving the house until it does work, because you'll be sorry, because it usually does work. But I wasn't happy about having to take that much vitamin C every day, every other day, every third day. I'd rather never take that much vitamin C, because I read someplace it could build up and cause stones, kidney stones or some darn thing. Who wants that? So, and of course doctors say, well, just take a laxative. Well, yeah. Milk and magnesia doesn't taste very good, in case you want to know. It tastes like, well, if you took some dirty socks and soaked them, like for 3 days in water, and then added sugar and let it ferment, that's what milk and magnesia tastes like. So it's not a real taste treat, but it's probably the best from what I read. I mean, if you got to take a laxative, the magnesium types are supposedly the least harmful, but some of the most highly recommended by doctors, not that I put any stock in those fellers, some of the most highly recommended by doctors laxatives is very similar to antifreeze, which is obviously not something you want to ever put inside your body or your mouth or anything like that. But now that I live that far from the equator, I found myself susceptible to a variety of diseases that I never heard of or never feared when I was living in the United States. As a result of having dengue, where my liver quit for a while, and what else did I have? Typhoid. I don't know how I got that. But I live in the Philippines, and when I first came here, I caught cold. I had bad cold once a month for like 2 years, 3 years. I don't know. It was a while. That happened again during the COVID season, the 2-year flu season they declared a while back. I call it COVID, but we'll talk about that in a different movie. So, I got UTI. I got a matagtiki. What is matagtiki in English? Abscess or boil. I got me a boil on my leg. I wrapped some herbs around my leg and tied it real tight, and I tied it too tight. And the herbs didn't do anything, and the thing I wrapped around my leg, or a towel, or a big old t-shirt or whatever I used to wrap around my leg, it actually pushed the infection inside my leg, so I got a big old red streak on my leg. I had to go to the hospital, and the girl said, the doctor, doctor girl, whatever you want to call her. She was only about 19, well, 22, I suppose, since they usually have to go to college in order to be a doctor. So she's 25, maybe 30 at the most. Anyway, she said, "Oh, you better check in. You check into the hospital." So they pumped me full of antibiotics for 3 or 4 days. Oh, I don't know, UTI, various different reasons I've went to the hospital here in the Philippines. I'll tell you some interesting stories about that sometime, especially the time I went during the COVID season. I didn't have COVID, I had, who knows what I had, but I'll tell you that story. It's a good story, but not right now. I had lots of toothaches because I'm just the right age where my teeth start falling apart, and I was eating cashews every day, which was pretty much rotting my teeth, breaking them and rotting them. Almonds and cashews and stuff. So I was having toothaches, I was having all kinds of, what do they call it? I think toothache is for the most part an infection that's under your tooth. Basically, it's like another kind of an abscess, and that can kill you because your teeth and your brain is only a few inches apart, so you don't want to really have abscess in your mouth. I had one in my nose one time. That was annoying, and I mean, you'll have to look up inside and see it. It's like, Jesus Christ almighty, why do I have a big old pimple the size of a marble inside my nose? You got to take antibiotics for this sort of stuff, and antibiotics is an okay thing because that's why we live so long, assuming that living a long time is a good idea. Well, most people think it is. But too many antibiotics, I develop what you call, what is that word? Tolerance to antibiotics, so I have to keep taking more and more expensive antibiotics every time. So I try never take antibiotics now because there's going to come a time where none of them do me any good. So, I'm 68, so I'd like to live for another 30 years, so the best thing I could suggest to myself is stay the hell away from hospitals, because the first thing they do, especially here in the Philippines, they plug you into what they call an IV. It's like standard operating procedure. You walk in the door and here comes your IV. Yeah, I could tell you some stories about being in the hospital in the Philippines. But we'll do that another time. I cured constipation for 5 years. I had chronic constipation. I cured it in 1 day. After, for 3 years, I was taking massive amounts of vitamin C and et cetera, milk and magnesia. I had to special order that. You can't get it in a store, but you can get it online here in the Philippines. I'm trying to make this movie as long as possible because the cure was so easy. But let me tell you something. When I say constipation, I'm not saying, well, it was hard to poop. It's like actually impossible to poop. There was no, what they call it, urge, and no, urgency, none, zero, no, what is it, when something squeezes and you gotta run to the John. Same thing that happens when they're having babies, but not exactly the same thing, but similar. Contraction, no contraction whatsoever. And a couple times, oh boy, I forced it after days and days, and the big brown things in there drying up for days, and at that point it's not going to come out by itself. And I forced it to start coming out, but it was too big to go out the hall. Oh, for crying out loud, that was a bad idea. Jeepers creepers. Oh man. If you get to a certain point, then you do start having contractions, but nothing comes out. And when that happens, it kind of, you really, you feel a lot of empathy for, when women have babies, because it just won't stop and nothing's happening, and oh my goodness, you don't want to have contractions for hours and hours. A 6-hour poop? No. With contractions. Like every 20 seconds you get contractions. Oh man. And my son was holding a bucket in front of me. I said, get that bucket over here. It's coming out, and I am going to make it come out. I don't care. This hurts so bad. I don't care how bad it hurts. I'm going to push it out. And I said, get that bucket over here, hold it in front of my face, because it's going to hurt that bad. I'm going to puke when I push it out. I don't puke. I don't puke from fear or pain. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not bulimic or anything. I rarely ever puke. But I knew I was going to for some reason. I pushed it out. Oh man, that was the worst pain. I was terrible. I was horrible. There's a YouTube channel about Dr. Berg or something. He's actually a chiropractor. I'm not into chiropractors. I can tell you that story sometime too. I'm not a fan of chiropractors or vitamins, and Dr. Berg's always talking about vitamins. I don't know. He did say something one time in one of his movies. He said, if you take kefir, that'll help you sleep at night or something. I don't remember what he said exactly, but so I like to give him acknowledgement for mentioning kefir, because my dad, he used to have constipation his whole life. I don't know if it's for the same reason I did, but he told me once, so his doctor told him to take kefir for constipation, and I tried that while I was in the United States visiting him, because I'd lived in the Philippines, if I didn't mention it already. I visited him for a while, stayed for 2 weeks, because, he was getting Friends reruns, Friends, the TV show. So I figured, yeah, I'll stay for 2 weeks so I can watch Friends for 2 weeks. I didn't know about Netflix yet. We get Netflix in the Philippines, but I was too stupid. I didn't know about that. Because they got Friends on Netflix here in the Philippines. And Seinfeld, yeah, so. Anyways. So later on, more months later after I forgot, being able to poop for 2 weeks in America while I was visiting my dad and watching Friends, I forgot about it. But I saw Dr. Berg's movie about, drink kefir to help you sleep. I don't really have trouble sleeping, but kefir, it tastes like buttermilk. If you hate buttermilk, well, what do you hate worse, buttermilk or constipation? I don't know. It's up to you. I love buttermilk. I always have. And kefir actually doesn't no longer remind me of buttermilk, because guess what? I've been making kefir every day for I don't know how long, 3 or 4 years, 2 years. I don't know. Long time. I make it myself, so I drink it for the cost of buying milk. Literally, I spent $10 on some starter once upon a time. I had to order it online, and I've been making my own kefir ever since. That was the extent of my expenses. $10 I spent for a teaspoon of starter. It came in the mail. I thought, oh, come on, this is just a couple of little bumps. It's not going to do anything. But it did. It worked. I followed the instructions. I revived it by putting smelly little bumps, because it didn't smell good after being in the mail for 3 days. This is the Philippines, Stuff gets warm here. But I followed the instructions. I put it in a half cup of milk. I thought, that's not enough to do anything. Then every day I strained out the bumps and threw away the milk. And after about 4 days, it was making good kefir that you could drink. So I upped the amount and started making more than a half a cup, and it tastes good. I started drinking it, and now, after that, it's just made perfect kefir. And it's not the kind of kefir I could show you. I could show you how to make kefir, but there's jillions of movies on how to make kefir. It's just utterly simple, and anybody that makes it complicated, It's not complicated. I have never sterilized anything. I keep my kitchen clean. I don't, blow my nose on my hankies that I used to put over the bottles. I don't do anything stupid, but I also don't, sterilize anything. I used to sterilize stuff. When I made yogurt, I made yogurt off and on for many years, and it's much milder tasting, and it didn't really do much. Every once in a while it helped me with constipation. And another thing is aged cheese. Yeah, like very strong tasting cheddar is pretty good for constipation, but kefir just out and out cured constipation 100%. In one day, yeah, I'm not lying. The first day I took kefir, a couple hours later, I run to the bathroom. Next day. I counted when I first started making kefir. I counted 41 days in a row I pooped with no effort whatsoever. And then I took one day off, and it didn't work for one day. And then I went the next day, it just went back to working again. I stopped counting because there's nothing to count. It's been years now. I lost track of how many years. I drink it every day. I love it. I drink a little cup, like six. Where's my hand? Oh, there it is. Like a 6-ounce cup. I drink that 3 or 4 times a day, which is probably too much because, it makes stuff come out a little bit, loosey-goosey. How do you say it? I don't know. Doesn't matter what I say, because YouTube don't know what I'm talking about anyway. I'm not going to show you any pictures, spare you the details. I suggest looking into Constantine Monastirskos, I can't remember, but Fiber Menace is his book, and it's free online, or you can buy it from him. Then, don't take it as a religion, but I read every word. I was very repetitive, and it's interesting and educational, and fiber is not the solution, because, yes, fiber has some importance, but it's not everything. And I recommend reading Fiber Menace and take it with a grain of salt, but also pay attention and learn something, because the medical establishment is not doing you any big, huge favors. They're doing themselves a big, huge favor. And let's not get into Fiber Menace, but it's interesting, and it's good information, some of it. In other words, roughage fiber, that is not the cure for constipation, and don't take psyllium. It's birdseed. It's not good for you. Don't eat seeds at all. Anyways, we might talk about that kind of stuff in some other movie. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what didn't work for me. I tried psyllium and all that ridiculous nonsense. You put it in the refrigerator and add some water to it and see how much it expands. Of course, that's not the way to go. Expecting fiber to be the bulk of your it comes out the rear end of your bottom side. That's not scientific. That's just old wives' tale or something. I agree with what Constantine Monastirskos, I can't say his name right because he's Russian, and I'm not. I agree with what he said, which is three-fourths of the bulk is supposed to be dead bacteria, not plant matter, vegetable matter. Little kids, why do they all hate their vegetables? Well, because their instincts haven't been killed yet. Eating meat is good for you. Eating high fat is good for you. All right, I'm not going to make a movie about, eating all meat or anything. I tried eating one meal a day for a while, and let me guarantee you, one meal a day, you're going to want to be eating meat, because otherwise, anyways. Oh, I'm not going to get started. I'm no expert on that stuff. But I tried it. I lost 20 pounds, I think. 15, 20 pounds. Eating meat, mostly hamburger, once a day, 5 o'clock. But now I weigh about 144 to 147, depending on what day it is. I could lose 10 or 15 pounds, I suppose, but it's not an emergency. Started out to say, you know, when I ordered my starter online for kefir, they had 3 kinds, the place I ordered it from, and they said, you know, this is not the kind that looked like where the so-called kefir grains look like cauliflower. It's a different kind, and they had 3 kinds. The cauliflower looking kind was the more expensive. They called it Irish, and then this one was the cheaper of the 3, cheapest of the 3. They call it Russian. They said it's a little more sour tasting. I don't know, because I've only made this one kind, and the bumps don't look like cauliflower. It looks more like, you know, buttermilk. It's lumpy. And the bumps are kind of soft. They break up pretty easy, so I don't stir it up much. Anyway, you probably don't live in the Philippines, so you just go get yourself some starter and look at some movies and make it in glass. I don't worry about whether it touches metal, but I don't make it in a metal bowl. I don't make it in a bowl at all. I'd like to show you a movie on how I make it, because it is so incredibly easy. Okay, but I don't have to show you a whole movie. I'll just show you my strainer, because it's kind of cool. Hang on 2 seconds. I'll be right back. See that? It's just a big old ladle with holes in it. So you can't stir it up. I mean, if you're using my method, you can't stir it up much, because the bumps that go through, if you break them up too much, they go through the hole. Don't wash your grains. I don't believe in grains, personally, because I've never seen any, but it's a different kind of kefir. See, nice strong, you gotta use a nice strong glass, because there's gas in kefir. If you put a top on it, put it in the refrigerator, it might actually crack the glass. So I use a nice strong glass. That's 1 liter. Leave room in the top. Don't get something exactly 1 liter. It's got to be a little room in the top for expansion. Then put a hanky over the top with rubber band, a clean one. You know, not the same one you use on your nose. You know what I mean? A clean one, clean cotton hanky. I fold it 4 times so it doesn't touch the countertop. And I put it in a plate with some water in it, because I live in the Philippines, and the ants here are healthier than the people, so you don't want nobody walking in your kefir jar. But I don't pour it in a bowl. I dip directly into the kefir. It's really hard to find the camera. Oh, like that. It's got the kefir in it after a day or 2 or 3, usually 2 days. I dip in, like, move it around a little bit, just stir it a little bit, and I just take it directly from here, put it into the clean jar where I'm going to make my kefir. I use about 2 of these, a little more maybe. If you don't use enough bumps, I call them bumps, most people call them grains. If you don't use enough bumps, then it's going to take too long. Sometimes it gets too sour. So you want to use plenty of bumps, like I use 2 or more of these, 2.5 maybe sometimes. And then usually it takes just a day or 2, and it gets to a point of separation. You know, you got a separation in here where you see like 1 inch of liquid, approximately, 1/2 inch to 1 inch of liquid, or even more if you leave it too long, but it's still okay. And that's what you want. That's what I want. I like it to be nice and tasty. If it's too mild, I don't think it's that good. But kefir is so much better than yogurt, because it's got like maybe 12 different strains of bacteria as opposed to 2, and it's easy to make. You don't have to heat your milk at all. Yogurt's a pain in the butt to make. It tastes really yummy, but it's so easy to make. You just dip your thing in and put your bumps in the other jar and pour some milk in there. Yes, you can use the, what do they call it, UHC, I don't remember, ultra high, I don't know. Yes, you can. They say all kinds of dumb things on these movies. Yo, you can't use this kind of milk. Yeah, you want to use whole milk. Never drink skim milk for any reason whatsoever. That stuff's poisonous. Always use whole milk, but any whole milk is fine. In those cardboard boxes, you know, they don't use that UHC milk. They've got to use organic. Blah blah blah. That's a bunch of baloney. So, yeah. I think I pretty much said everything I was supposed to say in this movie. This here's Professor UD Guru coming to you from wherever the heck I am, about that far from the equator, north of the equator. You know, we live so close to the doldrums, we don't have tornadoes here. I mean hurricanes. We don't have tornadoes either. We got earthquakes, you know. I appreciate you showing up, and we'll talk again next time. Bye-bye.